My wife came home quite late from her night out with the girls, and I truly believe she expected everything in our home to be just like it always was. In her mind, she probably thought I would stand up from the chair, give her a big, warm hug, and ask her if she had a wonderful time. But when she finally walked to the door, I greeted her with the one thing she never thought I would have in my hand. As soon as she saw what I was holding, all of her confidence seemed to just wash away like rain. The entire feeling in the room changed the very second she stepped inside. I smelled the sweet vanilla perfume I knew so well, but tonight it was mixed with something else entirely. It was a sharp, different smell, like a citrus fruit or a strong orange, and it was a scent I did not recognize at all. It definitely was not the perfume I had bought for her on our last anniversary, which was a day that felt like a lifetime ago now. This new scent was very strong and bold, almost like it was a heavy secret she was trying her best to keep. I looked over at the old clock on the kitchen wall. The red numbers were blinking, telling me it was already 1:17 in the morning. I had been awake for a very long time, just waiting. I spent many hours sitting there while the soft, flickering light from the television made big, dark shadows move across the room like ghosts. The TV was trying to help me fall asleep, but its noise was not working at all. She walked right past me without stopping. Her face looked very red, and her eyes were shining with a light that looked more like excitement than being tired from a long night. She was laughing a little bit as she walked, and that happy sound followed her through the house like colorful bits of paper left over after a party. She sounded so happy, which was actually very hard for me to hear. She chirped a quick hello while she was already halfway to the bedroom. She did not even turn her head to look my way. She did not say a single word about the many worried text messages I had sent her hours before to see if she was safe. She just told me that she and the girls went to a place called the Crimson Lounge. She said I would love it and described it as stepping into a completely different world where everything was new. I did not say anything. I just sat there in the dark and watched her walk away from me. I felt a very tight and uncomfortable feeling deep in my stomach. A night out with the girls. That is what she always called these trips. Lately, it felt like she was escaping from our life more and more every single day. It was happening every week now, and sometimes even more than that. Every time she came back home, she seemed to have more energy, but she also seemed to care about me a little bit less. I had tried to tell her how I felt before this night. I told her I was worried, but she just smiled and told me not to be silly. She said I was thinking too much about things that were not real. I am not usually a jealous person, but I knew in my heart that something was very wrong. It did not feel right anymore. Last weekend, my gut feeling finally made me do something I never thought I would ever do. I found a way to look at her phone records. I looked at who she called and the text messages she sent. Most of the names were people I did not know, and they did not mean anything to me. But there was one name that kept showing up over and over again. The name was Alec. It sounded like a normal, plain name, but appeared so many times that I knew it could not be a mistake. I decided to look a little closer at who this person was. I did a search online and found a social media page for him. There he was in a photo, looking very proud. He was tall with dark hair and had a very big smile on his face. I learned that Alec was the bartender at the Crimson Lounge. That was the exact same bar my wife could not stop talking about lately. My heart started beating very fast in my ears as I went to our home office to get a special envelope. I had been waiting for this envelope all week long. Inside was a paper receipt that I had paid a lot of money to get. I had to act like a worried customer who had a problem with a bill just to get a group of caring experts to give it to me. I walked into our bedroom. She was humming a little song to herself and putting on her nightgown. That strange, fruity smell was still floating in the air around her. She turned around to look at me with a smile. It was the kind of smile that used to make me feel so happy, but now it felt like something very bad. She asked me what was wrong and said I looked like I had seen a ghost. I held out the receipt for her to see clearly. I told her it was just a little something from her night out with her friends. I kept my voice very calm and steady as I held the paper. The look on her face changed instantly. Her smile disappeared. I watched her eyes move across the words on the paper, and all the color left her face. She started to shake and said that the paper must be wrong. I asked her if she really thought so. My voice sounded very sharp in the quiet room. I pointed to the top of the bill where the drinks were listed. I showed her that it listed 2 Ketel One drinks and 1 martini. Then it showed 4 Manhattans and 2 Old Fashions. There were also sidecars and drinks called French 75s. The amount of money did not matter to me at all. What mattered was the math. It was impossible for one woman to order and drink all of those things by herself. I told her flatly that this was not a night out with her girlfriends. She tried to speak, but no words came out. I could see the panic in her eyes. I told her to explain it to me and said I was listening, but I was not really listening because I already knew the truth. She started talking very fast, saying she just needed to let off some steam and that she never wanted to hurt me. She started to cry, and her makeup began to run down her face in dark lines. Nothing she said made any difference to me anymore. I stood there with my arms crossed and told her she had been lying to me this whole time. I told her I noticed everything, the late nights, the new perfume, and the stories about her friends. She started to cry even harder and said it was not what it looked like. She whispered that it was not serious and that she just needed to feel like she was alive again. I laughed, but it was a sad and bitter sound. I asked her if cheating with a bartender was her way of feeling alive. She reached out to touch my hand, but I stepped away from her. I told her that what she did was not just having fun. It was a huge betrayal of our love. I pointed to the receipt again. I asked her if she was with Alec. She did not say a word, and her silence told me everything I needed to know. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I did not yell at her, and I did not act out in anger. The fire in my rage had already gone out weeks ago. All I felt now was a cold and very certain feeling. I told her I was done. I was done with the games and the lying. I told her I wanted her to leave. She looked very sad and begged me not to do this. She said we could fix our marriage, but I had already made up my mind. I went back to the office and got a folder. I had the paperwork all ready to go. I handed the papers to her and told her they were separation documents. I told her everything was already set up and that she just needed to sign them. She looked at the pages like they were the worst thing she had ever seen. She asked how I could just throw everything away. I told her very simply that she was the one who did that. I told her she made her choices, and now I was making mine. She kept saying she was sorry and that we could get past this, but her voice just sounded like a quiet noise in the background. I did not feel angry or sad anymore. I just felt very still, like watching the very last spark of fire go out. Finally, she picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking as she signed her name. She dropped the pen as if it had burned her hand and looked at me with very sad eyes. She began to pack her things in total silence. I did not help her, and I did not say anything else. I just turned around and walked into the living room. I sat on the couch while the quietness of the house felt very heavy around me. I heard her walking toward the door, and then I heard the front door click shut. I heard her car engine start and then fade away until it was quiet again. I closed my eyes. I did not feel sad. I just felt empty, but also free. I had loved her very much. But love cannot stay alive when trust is taken away bit by bit. I never wanted things to end this way, but maybe this was always where we were going. Now I was free from the lies and the doubt. Even though it felt a little strange, I was happy for the quiet. I had no regrets about my choice. I knew I would build a new life and heal from this. For the first time in a very long time, I knew I owed it to myself to be okay.